Hey guys, how's it going? March 23rd, 2021, and getting underway here. I know this thing gets delayed, so I'm not too worried about that. Um, so, lots to talk about tonight. I was going to do one last night, and I decided to just take a breather and calm down a little bit, so I did. And it was probably a good thing, because, it is what it is, but I've been in conversations as far as uh, regarding drones and trains. So there's a hoopla that started on Train Sim. It calmed down. I took the high road, and normally I won't take the high road. Normally I'll fight. I'll fight in the trenches. I tend to want to stand my ground, but one of the things I decided when I was going to go back to Train Sim was I wasn't going to dig in the trenches any longer. If I wanted to dig in the trenches, or if I had something personal to say, I'd say it right here. Now, it's not just people who don't know me who has been critical of me flying a drone at Mac Yard in Toronto. I've also had a person who I have railfanned with who's been critical of it. We think a little bit differently. He likes to play things safe, and he believes if the railroad tells him to jump, if the railroad tells him to jump, he's got to jump. I'm not. I respect the railroad, and I don't want to start confrontation with people, or especially authorities or police, railroad police, or anything like that. I don't want to be doing that. But there's such a thing as laws, and I believe just because a police officer tells you something or asks for something, just because he's asked you for it, doesn't mean that he has the right for that. There's a certain rights, the Miranda rights that police officers are supposed to read. There's all kinds of different rights out there regarding that. So I wanted to make that kind of clear first and foremost. So basically, I'm not going to go into the train, so you guys can check it out yourself. There was also a video that I had watched recently on. I'm not too sure if I can find that in my history here. Might be able to find that. There is. Oh, let's see here. What have we got? Wasn't too. Yeah, okay. Flying drones over railroads as sheriff deputies encounter. This guy, 51 drones. I won't give the link to this, but this is a really good one as far as U.S. law is concerned. And he played it very calm, takes the high road, doesn't start a confrontation, is very civil. In fact, I had a confrontation with a police officer, except I was taking a leak on railroad property, I might add, behind a what is it, a relay box or casing or whatever. Not the entrance, I wouldn't do that, but basically behind there, so that I could basically do my business in the middle of between two cities during a quote-unquote pandemic, and no place where you have public washrooms. So I went there, and lo and behold, a police officer showed up. I wasn't parked in that spot. I was actually parked across the street. So how he knew, I think he was going to use it as a speed trap, personally. But I came out immediately, and he's kind of takes his finger and kind of brings it over towards himself, like come here, I gotta school you, kid, or old man, I guess it was, because he was a kid. But anyways, so he would say, do you know You know what that sign is on that box? And I says, oh, I'm aware of it. And I'm not gonna start saying I know all about trains and all this other stuff. You don't do that kind of thing. So you just play ball. And I basically said I had to take a leak real bad. And then even after I explained that, he was concerned that I was back there doing something. I was like, no. I said no, I'm not doing anything. I said I don't do that kind of crap. I said I know an RCMP officer who's well aware of me, and he can vouch for me if you need that. But I'd be happy to give you the information. He says, "Oh no, you don't have to do that." I said, "Okay." I says, "No problem." I said, "No, I just had to take a leak." And he says, "Okay, well, you shouldn't be on railroad property." And I said, "No problem." I says, I gotta go anyways. I says, "I've already done my business." So and that was the end of that. Now I was planning on flying a drone around there because I was like 8 minutes out before a train was coming. So I did stop at that area out in the middle of the country because I thought, well, number one, I had to take a leak, and number two, I was ready to get the next train. I wisely did not put a drone up there, because if he went by again and he saw me around and I had a drone, that's just asking for it. So you don't do that crap. There's a time and a place to do certain things, and laws in Canada are a little bit different than the United States anyways, and I tend to I go by the rule of law, and unless I see something or hear something otherwise, I will settle with the rule of law as far as what it is, and try to not attract attention. The heights that I'm at, the angle I'm at, I try not to fly over. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do fly over trains once in a while, but it's not at a distance or buzzing or trying to do stupid shit like that. So I don't do that kind of thing. I'm not out to quote unquote bring the hobby down or being a bad influence on the hobby or anything like that. I just follow what I am the understanding from everything that I have seen what the laws are. Now, some railroads make up all these things or say that that they can issue these $10,000 fines for flying above railroad property and all this other crap. I haven't seen a law that verifies that. They can make all the statements they want, and they can use all the scare tactics they want, and they can say all kinds of shit. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to a judge, the judge is going to rule according to what the law is, and people need to know their rights. This is why they have places like Points and stuff like that. Well, here in Canada, they have a place like Points. They are basically to represent people for speeding tickets, because a lot of times people don't understand their rights under the law. Now, I'm not advocating speeding, because I don't speed. I actually drive the speed limit and set it on cruise control and stay that way. I'm probably one of the few exceptions, because most people drive above the speed limit. But that's just me. I'm not saying that everybody should drive that way. That's just me. That's how I drive. So whereas I follow the speed limit to the law, I guess I'm one who sticks to laws. You tell me what the law is, and I know what the law is, and then I'll stick to it. I'll play by that book. And if I wanna bend the rules or go above those rules, that's the risk I take. But I'm sure as hell not going to post a YouTube video if I didn't think I was legally allowed to do something. So, anyways, I wanted to end that. I've said my piece on it. It's over. we're still discussing back and forth. Buddy of mine's going to get CN police or something. He wants to get his opinion on it. Now, I know what his opinion is going to be. I can tell you right now, he's going to say, no, don't do it. You're not supposed to do it. I'm like, yeah, okay. I basically, the last reply I gave to him, I says, if he says that, I says, I ain't listening to it. I says, unless he's got a verifiable law that I can look up, that is not just on a website that the police say, or sorry, that the police say, that the railroad says. The railroad is trying to protect their property. The other thing that was mentioned too is, if somebody was asked to, if you ask, it's courtesy basically. So if somebody asks you not to walk on their property, then the courteous thing to do is not to walk on the property. Here's the difference. Airspace is not their property. And that's the big thing right there. Airspace is not their property. Privacy is a right that they have. They have the right to privacy. They have the right to have their land kept to themselves and not trespassed on. But as far as the airspace goes, if somebody's just sitting and becoming a noise pollution or anything, or dangerous or flying above people, that's all illegal. But if somebody happens to be flying over a property, number one, I accidentally was over a property in Belleville. I didn't say too much about this, but it was totally accidental. It was right at the edge, actually. It was right by a river. I thought I was out on the river, but apparently I wasn't. And, those things are accidents. And I got away from there so it didn't happen again because it was too risky. So I went into a more open spot, came down the river, felt much more comfortable doing that. Anyways, enough to talk about the drones and trains. So what else is going on? Before I get into that, I saw something on the forum. I just came across this. Tom Lindsay, aka Frank Burns, passed away. Now, this was posted on the Train Sim General Forum section. So the name may sound familiar to many, but what he is most famous for in the community is he is the founder of the Mophouse forums. And that brought back a lot of memories. So I definitely, I believe I've seen pictures of, when I saw the pictures, he looks very familiar. When I saw that, I was just like, wow. So had he not mentioned the Mophouse, I may have not put two and two together. Myself, Lee Kinnaman, and others, we used to do a lot of things with Microsoft Train Simulator multiplayer, which was a thing at one time that I forget what line it was. I'm trying to figure out or remember. It was a line down, I believe, in Louisiana that we ran. I can't remember what it was. I don't even want to hazard a guess. It was just I think this was one of these north-south lines, if I recall. And we did multiplayer. I think we had. I don't know if it was multiplayer explore mode or something. I don't know. I forget exactly how it went. I think that was the first time that we were into something like TeamSpeak. At least that sounds familiar. There was once upon a time where I was in, I think it was TeamSpeak. I'm pretty sure. Honestly, it's a distant memory, but it certainly brought back some memories because I remember that was either at or before the founding inspirations of RTS. So that means quite a bit to me. And to have somebody who produced this, just like the train sim forum, despite my issues with some of the things going on there, Nels has always been fair to me. I find I have no issue with Nels. I've had issues with other things here, but it is what it is. So, anyways, that's train sim. Moving on, I keep on changing the name of this. It was used to be Railroad Transportation Simulations, or Simulator, I should say. I was going to turn it into Radical. I was going to turn it into Revolutionary, and I decided to go with Realistic. I'm thinking, well, why the hell you keep changing the name, and what is it that you're trying to get? There's a lot of different thought processes going on right now. I've been talking with my son, for one, because he knows me better than anybody. Despite some people thinking they know me. Some people know me pretty good. He knows me the best. He pretty much knows what I'm all about. Now, here's what's happening, and I'm gonna feed this into Run8. Scott and I were starting to talk. First of all, Scott and I have about the same interest in, I would say, Run8 right now, although I would say, I don't know if he has more interest than me or what, but we started talking back and forth about different ideas, because it caught my eye when he said that he still supports Run8, and he doesn't have as much interest in the computer at all these days. I still do. I actually do. What I found was that when I came back from vacation, I was burnt out. I didn't miss the computer. That's one thing. When I come back from vacation, I don't miss the computer. The only thing I was happy to see the computer for was to see the footage. That was the only thing I was really interested in. I tried to get back into some of the stuff that I was into before, such as what are some of the things that I've been doing. Lumberjack Dynasty, I couldn't get back into it. It's a lot different when you're in the middle of something, and it's a big part of you. It's a big part of your lifestyle, and it's something that you're really into. You kind of get a I don't know if it's a fever or I guess a fever is the right word, like transport fever, for example, or you get this larger than life feeling about something that you're a part of, and it seems real. It keeps you very happy and very content, and something to look forward to at the end of the day, on a weekend. Whether it's doing something just with yourself and other people online, or doing something with your son. Lumberjack Dynasty was something amongst a series of things that my son and I have done. Now, there's a lot of stuff we've bought over the years, but I never worry about spending $20 here and there, because I spend $20. This is Canadian dollars, so adjust it. It's probably about 75% of that, let's say, in U.S. figures. So you adjust that. It's basically the price of a meal for him and I at a fast food joint, and we do that all the time. So I wasn't worried about it. I didn't. I don't worry about spending a little bit of money now and then. So yeah, I got into. I'll just get out of chat for a bit. Nothing's going on there, but I got out of the whole thing. With the Lumberjack Dynasty. And I came back, and there's other things. Dyson Sphere I haven't got back into, although Dyson Sphere qualifies for something that I like in a simulation, and that is repeat playability. Lumberjack Dynasty doesn't, and I knew that the week before vacation. I was already starting to get a sense that this was something that was going to end. Long Dark's another one, although Long Dark has a lot more substance to it that I haven't explored yet, so I think Long Dark is something I could get back into pretty easily. Dyson Sphere, I don't see why we can't. Here's the thing, and the reason why I'm now turning a page in a bit. Number one, I've had exposure to seeing a lot of trains again. I've had an exposure of what it feels like. It's a lot different than when you're in Niagara. It's different when you actually get out there and you get to breathe some fresh air and you're out in the sun. You're number one, just being out and off the computer is awesome in itself. But there's also the thought process or the visual process that goes in, like when I have shots like this that I'm looking at right now, and this is the reason why I went to the screen, is these are the kind of things when I have a drone and I take certain shots that inspire me. They inspire me to think of ways to make it happen. And here's the thing. The last simulator that I tried getting into is trains. My son is still big time into it. He's kind of, I don't know if he's at a gap right now, or he tends to build stuff and then he goes on and builds something else and then he goes on and builds something else. So he always loves building things, which is cool. Me, I'm more of a perfectionist when it comes to the prototype. So when I know the height's not right and I can't quite figure out what it's going to be, that was the hang up for me in trains, and I never really liked it, and I didn't like having the stand-ins where I wanted to have my own objects in there. It just didn't feel like Niagara to me. It felt close to it, but it wasn't quite it, and it bothered me. Because like Run8, which is supposed to represent, Run8 is supposed to represent as real as it gets, and I imagine it's pretty much as real as it gets. Maybe not all the actual foliage like this, or obviously there's no snow and precipitation on the ground and other things, but that kind of thing. But still, I mean, having most of what is there to make it feel, but when you have something that's a stand-in object, I mean, this is the kind of shot. This is actually a perfect example. So there is no lift bridge that looks like this. There's no locks that look like this. I wasn't quite there yet, but the Grimsby sub was coming, and I wanted to do things with this, and I just couldn't. And I knew right then it would just be a stand-in, to get this iconic water tower. It would be a stand-in unless I got in there and figured out ways of doing my own assets, which was another stumbling block that I had to overcome. And believe me, there's ways I could do it, but why do it for another simulator when I can do it for my own? That's where I look at that point. My issue is confidence. It always has been when it comes to programming. The big thing about RTS, and this is where this all comes in now, and I'm going to paint the picture very much. First of all, we were actually playing Train Dispatcher the other night. My son's getting into that. I got him into that, and I was watching him dispatch, and he's a little bit older now, so now it's more challenging and more interesting to him suddenly. So he may get into that a little bit more. He even said that, I told him, I says, it wouldn't take me much to create a Train Dispatcher 3.5 replacement. Because I've always wanted to do that, but I never got around to doing it because I was into the Run8 side. I was into other things. But it was something that, and that was the thing. I was into the Run8 side, and for me, I never wanted to do another Train Dispatcher. I wanted to have something that was capable to run in Run8. So that was the difference. And that's probably why I never did it. But turning this all around for a minute, and I want to be, clear as far as what this is all about. Going in, I started thinking about what got me to code RTS beta in the first place. What got me to code RTS beta in the first place was a need. I needed something. I shouldn't say, it wasn't necessarily a need. It was a high want, but it certainly qualified as a need. There's a difference between a want and a need. Now, no, I didn't need it, but I needed it to achieve certain goals that I had in some of my wants, if that makes sense. So, in that you could say, well, no, it can't be a need then, because if it's a need to achieve wants, it's still a want. And no, that's not it. So what RTS did was it facilitated the transportation system of the car forwarding. It allowed me to take Run8 at the time and take advantage of RTS and do something I was capable of doing well within my capabilities, and that was to create a train creator to be able to go into the data and be able to create consists, be able to create loads, be able to space them out, build up custom consists, trains, and all the other stuff. I never did it for version 2, and the reason why I never did it for version 2 was because, one, I wasn't that interested in Run8 at that point. I shouldn't say I wasn't into Run8. At that point, I was more into just running in the multiplayer sessions and everything. I wasn't really hosting as much. I wasn't hosting a 24/7 server. I tended to do, if I did my own thing, I would do it, but I really didn't need that. It was just much easier to use the added systems that were added into version 2 for the car forwarding. They weren't as good as RTS, but in some ways they were more automated in RTS, so that's what made it special. So, hold on a second here. Gotta take a breath here and take a drink of water. So what is this all getting to? So I'd love to be able to build my own simulator, 3D simulator. That'd be nice. I could build a dispatcher. There's a lot of different things that I have thought about. I have thought about everything from world generators, Railroad Tycoon type simulations, all kinds of things. But Scott and I, actually, my son and I, one of the things that we talked about before, and he's still not 100% on board with this, which is okay. He doesn't need to be, because I'm on board. That's what counts. And, if he's not on board, that's okay. He's warning me on certain things, but at the same time, he's kind of swaying towards maybe it is possible. I don't think he quite sees my vision just yet. I haven't sold it very well, but that's okay. What he's warned me about is the same thing that others have noticed, and it goes the same way. Scott would be one that knows the routine, because him and I have shared it. We get into something, it becomes repetitive, it becomes boring. It's just us or whatever, or nobody else is around, and then it becomes, it doesn't become, it becomes a lot more similar to single player, you're in your, you're on your own type deal. So here's how we talked about things. Scott had a server up, and he had, his idea of the server was to have, I think he had a 24/7 server where he kept everything open. He kind of had this idea where everybody had their own railroads and stuff like that. So I thought, I thought that was cool and all, but I thought it was too open. I thought it was not as detailed of a system that I could get into, for me personally. And I told him that. I was upfront with him, and I told him, I said, it just, I can't really get into it. I was on Smiley's server for a while. It's down now. I think he took it down. He got tired of it. I tried to do that for a while, and that was totally open-ended, and it just, you'd run trains, and it lost its flavor real quick for me, even with a few other people that were still around. But then I started thinking about, and we've had different ideas as to, and the reason why I mentioned Run8 is there's no engine, there's no 3D engine that could do it. And RTS was a concept well before Run8. What happened, and Microsoft Train Simulator was once an engine for RTS too, in its own way. It was it was part of the activity generators. If some of you may have back there way back then. What Run8 is, it became the engine that I could use RTS for, and the concept had a 3D simulator that it could use to basically provide for the goals of RTS, or at least most of them. Didn't provide all of them. It never did, and that's normal, because I have certain things that I wanted to do in it as well. But it's, this wasn't my simulator. It's their simulator. They can do it however they want, and it's their baby. It's their creation. It's their vision. If they matched every single thing that I wanted, I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, you get pretty lucky if that matched, but don't count on it. But it was pretty damn close, and it did a great job. It filled. It was a part of my lifestyle for 6 to 7 years, easily. And I would lie if I said I didn't miss it sometimes. But having said that, I know I'd get bored of it as if I went back to anything that I was doing before, because really the multiplayer community is not there. It's very difficult to do at a larger basis and everything. So here's what it gets around, what it gets boiling down to. And this goes beyond Run8. I can tell you that right now. What Scott had mentioned the other night was, he was talking about, if we had railroads and we, treated it like we were the owners or whatever, and we don't have to run, we don't have to run like a class 1 or anything like that, although we could into a limited fashion somehow. But somehow to have it so that you would have you would have limited equipment, you would have so much money or whatever, and then over time you get to buy things. The problem I see with that is real time can't be simulated because there's no continuous AI switching, AI dispatching, and all the other things that I want in an ultimate simulator for RTS. Those are the things that I really want. I want AI dispatching. I want AI. I want to be able to run this, even if I run it 24/7. Okay, let's say I ran it 24/7 and the thing can operate 24/7. Let's just say it could do that. It takes time to gain those assets. It takes time to, be able to decide what you want to purchase with it and all that other stuff. So this is where I'm the Tycoon side. It's mixing the Tycoon and the operator side is kind of weird because you want to keep it 1-to-1, and in fact it's slower than 1-to-1 because you got a life, you sleep, everything stops when you stop, and you've got somebody else on a server that is able to take over perhaps, but generally speaking most servers, they don't run anywhere close to that. I'd like to see it where enough people were there so that the server could run a full 1-to-1 24/7 type environment. That'd be kind of neat. And have it come around to where it was crew based, but at the same time I'm probably having a hard time explaining this. So what I propose to do, because it's probably pretty easy to program, is I'm going to go back to the basics when it comes to RTS. I'm going to create a shipper consignee system and this is something that I'm planning on doing. I don't see why I can't do this. It's well within my capabilities. I could write it in BASIC. I was going to write this one in Visual Basic actually because I want to get some of the online stuff. But so what I want to do is I want to be able to create it so that we have the lines, say in California or wherever we decide to do. Whatever region we decide to go for, we start creating the shippers and consignees database list for the area. And we decide where we're going to operate out of, what railroads or whatever, whether it be a bidding war to purchase a lease agreement with BNSF and UP, because this is going to be it's going to be a lease agreement. It's what I think the way you have to do it. So what we're basically doing is we're going to have it so that not worry about the railroads, full day operations. In fact, I'm not even going to consider it part of a transcon. I'm not even going to worry about the transcon effect of all these trains. The focus is going to be on the operations between the switching to the transfer to the main lines to go from our collective region or scope somewhere else. How that happens, I don't know. You can have various ways of doing it. For example, I'm trying to think now. One of the things that you can do is a lease operator. You can run a switching operation, but you can also operate as a bridge road. So that would allow you to operate multiple regions if you so desire. You can have multiple leasing companies that are taking over whatever. I could have trains that operate as UP, BNSF, dispatch, do all the other things for it. Since I like dispatching, I would probably go more for the regional type operation. Probably I'd run a UP subsidiary out of Bakersfield, I would imagine, to just basically handle the switching. Because what Scott and I used to do a lot is he would run SJVR, I'd run UP back in the old days, and we would just transfer cars back and forth between the two locals, and we would do a live interchange. And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Something like that. He was mentioning our AZRC. I don't think that's a good live interchange like up at Cadiz or whatever. I think the one at Bakersfield is probably one of the better ones. There's other ones on the Northeast that we could do as well. It's possible, to do those. Actually, those are probably some of the easiest to set up dispatching for. Is if we were to do the Northeast. But I don't think I would. I don't think I would mess around with the hump as much as I like the hump and all that. Maybe I would. Depends on how well it behaves. So I don't know that I'd have to deal with its little quirks and that, but maybe I'd do that. Who knows? But I wouldn't run it like it was. I wouldn't run it like it was CSX or whatever. I would run it like it's my railroad. It's my we're the operator. Just like Montana Rail Link operates for, Class 1 railroads in that little section and blah, blah, blah. Something like that. That's the way I look at it, is doing something like that. The reason why I would say Run8 is a good candidate is, number one, it ain't going to happen overnight. I need to create the software first. I think I need to create the software first. That would handle the demand. So basically, we'd run them like businesses, and we would create the supply and demand based on based on costs. So not only, and this is where I get into the whole getting rid of the railroad transportation side of things, because I'm looking at multi modes of transportation. I'm looking at trucks, I'm looking at ships, I'm looking at all kinds of things. That's where the difference is, why I want to try to get away from railroad transportation so much as the be all and end all, which is why if I was to program something like that, there's a possibility we might be able to set up some trials, see how it operates, and just have some fun with it. That alone would entice me to get the rail driver back on. And I wouldn't do it for the sake of running Run8. I certainly don't miss it that much that I have to get this rail driver back on and play it now. I don't care about that. I don't miss it that much, trust me. But I do miss the multiplayer camaraderie between the two of us and doing different things. We were talking about, there was another one that was out there that you can do multiplayer in. It's, I don't know what the hell it is. Sorry. Railroad Corporation. But both him and I aren't too high on it. He kind of mentioned it. I kind of took a look at it, and my son and I both were in agreement. And just like, no. As soon as I saw missions, I'm like, no, I don't want missions. I've had enough of those mission type things in Lumberjack Dynasty and No, I don't like missions and story-based stuff. I like to let things flow. I used to like activities back in the Microsoft Train Simulator days, and the only reason why I liked activities was because it gave it something to do. Before that, it had nothing. It only had explore mode. You couldn't even see another train. Activities brought the signal system to life, although it wasn't perfect, and it brought brought the AI trains again, not perfect, but it brought everything to life. So the problem with the activities is it's like rereading a book. So if you create activities, which I did, you knew how your book started and ended, and if you were just creating activities for yourself, you got bored very quickly. I had activity exchange programs with different people, so that I would write activities for somebody else and they would get to use them, and they'd write activities for me and I'd get to use them. That didn't really last that long, but pardon me, throat's getting dry. But that's how it goes into it. So you are a dreamer. Where are you going to get capital investment? Are you a dreamer? Yeah, I guess so. Where are you going to get capital investment? Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked into that as far as where are you going to get. So capital investment into the game? I don't know. I haven't thought that far into it. Like the investment side of things. See, I don't want to get into the tycoon side too much. I want the tycoon side as an incentive for choosing profitability. But at the same time, I don't want to play a railroad tycoon simulation type thing where we're just doing mergers and acquisitions and all kinds, like loans and buying new motive power and that kind of thing. I don't think I want to go that far. Really, we haven't got that far yet. I just want to basically get it to where it has more profitability, I guess, and on a daily operating basis, and to go from there. So it's kind of an incentive. It kind of gives it a little bit of added purpose, but really it's about waybills. It's always been about waybills with RTS, and that wouldn't change too much. RTS always worked in waybills, but this would bring it even further, more than RTS. Plus, it would eliminate the need for having reliance on what the prototype does. So if you're leasing an operation, although we know in the real life it's a transcon, we know there's a lot of traffic going through, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what, if it's a transcon in the southwest, or if it's the funnel in the southeast, or what do you call it? What do they call it there? I guess you call it the Chicago line in the Northeast. I should know. I'm more from the Northeast, so I'm familiar with the Chicago line. But I just couldn't come to terms with what the hell the name was I was thinking. But something like that. That's more of a. And the thing is, I've done it before. I've programmed RTS beta. It worked great for years. I didn't update it as much as I would like. I never updated. I did some updates to it. Actually, Ski was somebody who was able to tap into that and created a little bit more automated in the closing years of the version 1 and the beta before version 2 made that obsolete. So, but I never, after version 2, I thought about doing it, didn't do it, thought about doing it, didn't do it. This isn't to be beta 2, or it's not necessarily to be a replacement or like anything like what RTS once was. What RTS was then was basically taking trains and generating constants and having all the entire systems editable. I mean, in theory, I suppose it could, but I'm not trying to find ways of generating the actual trains themselves. I would much rather just have the system go in and create, like, because you have your consist editors now. I don't think you had it back in the original version 1 at that point, if I recall. So it's probably just as easy for a small traffic load like we're talking about doing, which is pretty much few if any players on a server, because we've never had high levels, to be able to create traffic and consists, and then the rest of it would be AI generated run-throughs and stuff like that, and take it from there, I guess. So yeah, that's about it. Anyways, that's just the stuff that we're throwing back and forth. I don't know how far we're going to go, and it's the one thing that I've been thinking about doing right now. I have to put it to where I could be doing the dispatching thing still. That's something that's possible as well. I'd like to get into the dispatching side. That's something that I also miss. So the issue here is, if I was to go into Run8 again and I did the dispatching side, it's okay for a while, but then eventually it becomes repetitive and not as challenging as you would think. Plus, I mean, External Dispatcher just came out with a different version. It has nothing to do with the areas I'd be running anyways, but whether it's External Dispatcher or even whatever the one is, I own another software that does dispatching. I can't think of the name of it. I mean, it has some limited capabilities. I mean, some better capabilities, I should say. But I personally like some of the features that are part of Train Dispatcher 3.5 that Run8 doesn't even do. Trains will just randomly pop on whenever. I'm not a big fan of that. I never have been. And I've always liked it so where I've always liked it where there was a common predictability, not a common predictability, but a flow. So in other words, if you saw a train, it might be a little different, but you knew it was 421 or 422 or whatever train. You knew what a typical train like that looked like. RTS had that. It had that in its consist. It had that in its flavor. When we went to version 2, we lost that. And I don't think I ever fully recovered, but at the time I just went with it because it was the easiest thing to do to utilize version 2. And you know, there was no stepping back. Once they had AI in with Run8 version 2, there was no going back to what RTS originally was. It couldn't do it. There's just no way. I had to come up with ways that not only I was able to generate trains, but the AI would pop them out automatically. And it just didn't have that ability. It never did. So that's the only issue. And I was hoping it did, but it never did. But that's okay. Those kind of things just made me take the pluses over the minuses and just go with what Run8 version 2 had and do the best with it. And we had some fun times with Run8 version 2 in the height. That first year under version 2, over on that Southwest server, holy crap, did we have some fun. I remember it was before LA came out, And I was happy. I was one of the people. I know a lot of people were upset that LA wasn't part of version 2. I couldn't have been happier, because it was still contained, it was still doable, it was still manageable for the crew that we had. And what ended up happening is, although people came and gone from the Southwest server, I don't keep up with what the guys do on the Southwest server these days, but from what I understand, the numbers are about the same. I've checked the forum a couple of times. Everything's still pretty much the same. The same goes with other servers, despite growth because of the pandemic, or more car loads or whatever there is out there. There's really not any significant growth that would make up for the shortage of crews needed. There's just too much, and that's why I say you need smaller regions. You need not necessarily smaller regions in size, but you need smaller regions in traffic complexity. Yeah, we all love the traffic, and we all love the massive. Just having a class 1 in a less, like, even if it was like, say, Bakersfield level traffic, something like that, more spread out. Even, I suppose you could say, like the BNSF Bakersfield sub. I mean, I don't have it, but from what I hear, that's something that people have recommended that I may be interested in. I just never have gotten it. The last purchase I made was Oak Creek and Arvin, and I barely used it. Yeah, I was already falling out of Run8 at that point, so. But that's why I put Run8 question mark. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen. I can tell you right now, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's probably not going to happen. If I was to guess, I would say if it's going to happen, it'll happen in the summer. And it may not. It may not happen till the fall. By then, version 3 could be out, and who knows what's going to happen by then. But then again, we've been saying that for the past couple of years about version 3, so we don't know when version 3 is coming out, so we don't know. But I'm not putting a time strain. I'm not going to put the 2021 like I did, like a clown. Put that in front of that. That was just added pressure I didn't need. At the time, was in the middle of the winter, and I was dedicated to trying it, and I actually started at least getting the images together and starting to stitch them together and stuff like that. Right away, I didn't like how it looked. Then I had somebody had basically told me, and said, well, why would we be interested in something from Canada that is not like what we have? And at first, and then, like, the traffic levels or whatever, and then I kind of realized it was just like, well, wait a minute, this is why the busy territories and the more popular territories sell more. I wasn't too worried about that, because I wasn't too worried about the money. For me, I was more concerned about one critical thing that I overlooked, and that was the days that the last days I was in Freight Yard Manager, when I believe I had some girlfriends or something like that. My time was limited. I had jobs. I don't know what happened, but I had to give up some of the coolest yards that I had. I had Oakwood and outside of Detroit, one of the big yards over there, and I had Toronto Mac Yard. So I was able to operate those at full capacity. I was able to keep up with the demand that was coming in from other yard masters. It was great. It was fun. It really was a good pastime. But once I didn't have the time, suddenly I couldn't do that anymore, and I had to settle for the smaller ones. Hence why, just because it's smaller and manageable doesn't mean it's better. Smaller and manageable is great, and I do think smaller and manageable with the right AI and stuff can be great. However, having that smaller freight yard manager type thing, and even if I had all the AI into it, I started thinking about that, and I thought to myself, if I was just going to do a freight yard manager clone with some special perks in there, how the hell am I going to really enjoy that for long? I was going to get bored of that so quick. And I pulled the plug on it. I couldn't let it go any further. I was just like, the only way it was going to go is if I was going to do Mackyard. And oddly enough, the final straw was when I started this video on with Jones and Mackyard. I realized when I took that flight at Mackyard, I realized there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to get all of Mackyard. I could try it, but then you have all the legal issues with who knows what else could come up. I was just like, nah, I don't even want to touch this. I did that for fun and entertainment and for my own personal enjoyment and others. That was it. There's just no way. And I was thinking, yeah, it'd be great to do a freight yard manager type Mackyard thing. And just like, nah, it ain't happening. The big boys like Google are allowed to take pictures of these yards. Apparently, the average Joe like yourself is not. I guess they're safer, supposedly, because they're not drones or whatever. But anyways, don't get me on a rant. I'm going to end this for now. And yeah, keep an eye open on this website. I haven't been updating it lately, but the links are in my description on all the videos that I post. And you can find it if you want to look for it right now. It's just like sites.google.com/ that ain't it. Did I already publish this? I think I did. Review changes and publish. There are no... Okay, yeah. I don't want to... Okay, hang on a second here. What the hell was that? RTS test images. I don't even know what the hell that is. Oh, that's my son trying different stuff. I was like, what is that? That's not, that isn't what I'm supposed to be doing here. Yeah, I don't know where the hell the website is. Let's go into here for a second. I'll find it. I just want to make sure I'm giving the right one. I think I have it in my description. Okay. Oh, view. Okay. So sites.google.com/view/Sean Merle RTS. You'll find it when this gets totally posted. Blah blah blah. But for now, I'm going to end the stream, and thanks for the likes. Thanks for your coming out, guys. And we'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Take care.